poaching is the perfect cooking technique when it comes to delicate foods like fish, eggs, and sometimes chicken breast, but it can be really intimidating for people. How do you start poaching? And today I'm going to be poaching salmon fillets. The first step is in creating a flavorful liquid. Now in front of me here I have some aromatics, I have celery, which you can just kind of break this in half and put it into a shallow pot. You want something that's wide. You don't want to stack up the vegetables and the protein that will eventually go in the pot in something too small. So something that is wide and shallow is perfect. Some carrots here, I'm gonna cut them in half, and 2 onions. Now, what I'm creating is called a court bouillon, and a court bouillon, if you're really, getting French, court bouillon is a flavorful poaching liquid that usually has aromatics like this, and it also has a little bit of acidity to go along with it. For more flavoring, I'm gonna add 2 bay leaves and some peppercorns. Now, if you wanted to change up the aromatics here, if you wanted to add a little bit of fresh thyme sprigs, that would be great. Some people add parsley stems to their court bouillon, that's great. 2 cups of a dry white wine. So this is what's going to give the court bouillon a depth of flavor, and also it gives that acidity that you really need. So that goes right into the pot. And then you want to pour in enough water to cover the vegetables here by 2 inches. So now you want to bring this mixture up to a boil. Now, boiling is not poaching. So all we're doing here is we're bringing this mixture up to temperature. We're infusing the liquid with the aromatics, and then we're going to turn the temperature down. Now, because poaching takes place at a certain temperature range, and that is between 160 to 180. Sometimes it will go up to 185, and that depends on what you're poaching. Now, eggs you want to poach at a lower temperature generally. When you have something like salmon or chicken breasts, you can poach them at a slightly higher temperature. So I have one of these candy thermometers here that you use for making candies, of course, or you use it for deep frying. It's really great here so that you can monitor the temperature so that you're not going over the temperature. Now, a way to do that without a thermometer, you don't want the mixture to simmer. You don't want to see too many bubbles because that's too high of a temperature. So once this comes up to a boil, then we'll be ready to add our salmon. Okay, so the court bouillon, it is up to a boil now, and I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a taste. So it has a very light flavor. Don't expect this to have the flavor of a stock of any sort. It has a light aromatic flavor with a high amount of acidity, which is really great, especially for poaching salmon. So I'm gonna turn this now down to, I would say, medium-low temperature, and this needs to come down to 180 degrees, and that's when we're going to add the salmon. Now, today I am poaching using the deep poaching technique, which means that I'm completely submerging the salmon fillets that I'm using. Now, deep poaching versus shallow poaching, which is partially submerging the protein that you're using, and shallow poaching is typically used with very thin pieces of protein or thin pieces of fish, like a thin fillet of sole, something like that, because what happens is the poaching cooks the bottom half of the fish and then the steam cooks the other portion. And usually with shallow poaching, you then take the liquid that you're poaching in, you reduce it down, and you use it as part of your sauce. So this technique today, deep poaching, is used for thicker cuts, whole fish, chicken breast, things like that. So our temperature is down, it's about at 180 degrees, and now I'm going to gently place in the salmon fillets. Now these are 6-ounce wild salmon fillets. Whenever you're buying fish, you guys, if you can try to find a wild source, a sustainably caught source, please try to do that. Here in the test kitchens, we like to use the Monterey Bay Seafood Watch. It always tells you what's the most sustainable fish at the present time. So these go in to your poaching liquid. Be very gentle with them here, guys. And now these are gonna poach at that 180 degrees or less for about, I would say, 10 minutes. And I'm gonna show you a cool technique in checking to see that the salmon itself in the center is cooked. So it's been about 8 minutes. The salmon has been, it's not even at like the barest simmer. You really want to make sure that you're not bubbling up. Otherwise, you're going to risk overcooking your fish. If you're doing chicken, it's the same thing. And also with fish that's flaky, you want to make sure that you're not disturbing it with lots of bubbles and movement. Otherwise, it'll break apart the fillets. So a way to test whether or not it's done is to use a metal skewer like this, or you can use a thin bladed knife like this paring knife or a boning knife, and you're just going to take the tip of the knife and you're going to insert it into the center of the fish for a few seconds, pull it out, and you should be able to feel warmth on the tip of the knife, and that way you know that the fish is done. Now, if it's cold, the fish is not done, and if it's way too hot, well, guess what? You screwed up and you might have to start over. It's overcooked. So I'm gonna fish these guys out. They seem perfect. Now you can tell they're not overcooked because there's none of that white stuff comes out. Well, that's actually all of the fat in the salmon, all of that wonderful fat that's good for you. So if you see that stuff coming out, that means that you're overcooking your fish. You can see that there's no white stuff here. These look beautiful. Now, I haven't seasoned the water, right? There's no salt in this court bouillon, so make sure that when you serve this up, whatever you're doing with it, you could flake this for a wonderful salad. You could serve it just like this with a delicious sauce, maybe a yogurt sauce, maybe a beurre blanc, but I'm gonna give it a little bit of salt for flavor. Serve it with a side of salt as well. Lemons, you need a little bit more acidity to cut through the fat of the salmon. And then I love dill, so there you go, guys. Poaching fish, poaching anything isn't really that hard. You just need to know the technique. Hopefully I've helped you through that and you'll try this at home. Now, if you have any kitchen conundrums, write in the comment section below. I always love hearing from you guys. And as always, enjoy, guys.